The Battle of Sekigahara is often described as the battle that decided Japan. That is true, but the battle only makes sense if we understand the political crisis behind it. Toyotomi Hideyoshi had unified the country, but he did not leave behind a secure adult successor. His heir, Hideyori, was still a child. Around him stood powerful lords, senior commanders, and families that had submitted to Hideyoshi but still possessed land, castles, troops, and ambition. This is the fragile part of unification. A country can be conquered before it is stabilized. Hideyoshi had forced the daimyo into a shared order, but many of those daimyo still remembered older rivalries. They had their own retainers, their own territories, and their own reasons to fear the rise of another dominant house. So after Hideyoshi's death, Japan did not simply return to total chaos. The structures of unification still existed, but the question of leadership became dangerous again. The system needed an adult center, and several powerful men believed they could shape that center. In this situation, the question was not whether Japan had been unified. The question was who would control that unification. Tokugawa Ieyasu was one of the most powerful daimyo in the country. He had survived Nobunaga, served alongside Hideyoshi, governed enormous lands, and built a reputation for patience. After Hideyoshi's death in 1598, Ieyasu moved carefully but steadily to strengthen his position. Ieyasu's strength was not only the size of his domain, it was his experience. He had spent decades surviving stronger neighbors, shifting alliances, defeats, obligations, and opportunities. Unlike younger commanders who had risen quickly under Hideyoshi, Ieyasu had learned the older rhythm of patience. He knew when to wait, when to promise, and when to strike. Opposition formed around figures who feared Tokugawa domination or claimed to defend the Toyotomi order. The conflict that followed is often simplified as the Eastern Army against the Western Army, but beneath those labels was a web of promises, suspicion, old grievances, family interests, and survival calculations. This is why Sekigahara was political before it was military. Daimyo had to decide where their future was safest. Some committed openly, some hesitated, some communicated with both sides, some waited to see which way the battle would turn. For many lords, the decision was not ideological in a modern sense. It was practical. Which side could protect their lands? Which side would punish them if they guessed wrong? Which side offered a better future for their family? A battlefield army was also a map of private calculations. The battle took place on October 21, 1600. Armies gathered in central Japan. Weather, terrain, timing, and morale mattered, but the most famous feature of the battle was uncertainty. Not every force on the field acted with equal commitment. Several commanders on the western side failed to move decisively. The most famous case is Kobayakawa Hideaki, whose defection helped collapse the western position. Whether from pressure, calculation, or prior arrangement, his move revealed the fragile nature of the coalition. Ieyasu won because he commanded troops, but also because he understood people. He knew that armies are made of political relationships. A general can lose before the fighting begins if his allies do not truly believe in the same future. This makes Sekigahara different from a simple story of bravery. Courage mattered, but trust mattered more. The Western coalition had numbers and capable leaders, but its unity was weaker than it appeared. Ieyasu did not need every enemy to be destroyed by force. He needed enough of them to doubt, pause, or change sides at the decisive moment. After Sekigahara, Ieyasu did not simply celebrate. He reorganized power. Defeated lords were punished, moved, reduced, or destroyed. Loyal houses were rewarded. Strategic territories were placed under Tokugawa control or given to trusted allies. The map of Japan was edited to make another rebellion harder. In 1603, Ieyasu received the title of shogun. The Tokugawa shogunate would rule from Edo, the city later known as Tokyo. This new order did not end conflict because people suddenly became peaceful. It created institutions that made large-scale war much harder. Edo itself became part of the answer. By making Edo the center of Tokugawa power, Ieyasu shifted Japan's political gravity eastward. Kyoto remained culturally and symbolically important, but military government now operated from a growing castle city controlled by the Tokugawa house. The Tokugawa system controlled daimyo through land assignments, family obligations, political surveillance, and eventually the alternate attendance system, which required lords to spend time in Edo. Status groups became more clearly defined. Castles were limited, private war was suppressed. The genius of the system was that it turned potential enemies into managed participants. Daimyo still ruled domains, collected taxes, and maintained status. But they did so inside a framework that constantly reminded them who held final authority. Their families, finances, travel, marriages, castles, and political relationships could all be watched. Peace, in this sense, was not passive. It was engineered. It required pressure. Ritual, records, roads, hostages, and rules. The Tokugawa order did not erase ambition. It made ambition expensive to express through open war. The result was the Edo period, more than 2.5 centuries of Tokugawa rule. It was not a modern democracy, and it was not a simple golden age. But compared with the Sengoku period, it was a dramatic transformation. Japan moved from fragmented warfare to managed peace. Sekigahara matters because it was the hinge. Before it, unification was still contested. After it, the Tokugawa had the leverage to turn victory into order. The battle was won in a day. The political system built from that victory lasted for generations.